Thanks again for joining us today. In this version of our SPINcast, we have three players from the baseball world of things. I say players, I've coached side by side with Coach Paul Bard, who was actually drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates back in the day to play baseball. I have one of his sons, Daniel Bard, who currently is with the Colorado organization, but you'll see my Boston hat. He was with Boston for a bit. I'm a big New England guy, so got to represent there. And then Luke Bard, who's with us as well, who currently plays for the California Angels. Just so you guys can see, I've got all of the bases covered except for Pittsburgh. Sorry, Paul. But these guys are all within the same family. Actually, Paul's the dad, the two sons here, Daniel and Luke, and there's another son, Jared, who we'll talk a little bit about as well. These three guys are, well, really all four, if you include Paul, all incredibly blessed to be able to play at some of the highest levels within the baseball world. Jared, who played at a Division I school, Daniel and Luke, who played professionally at the major league level, and Paul, who was also able to play at the minor league level with Pittsburgh. So unbelievable story that the four of them were able to achieve such levels of success with baseball. So I guess my first question will be pretty straightforward for you, Paul. As a father in this family, how in the world do you explain this abundance of talent? And of course, the easy answer is they're all blessed, obviously, with gifts from God. But to get to the point where they got to, there's a lot of people that are blessed with gifts from God that don't get that high, aren't able to take advantage of those opportunities, etc. But second to point to that question is kind of a part B. How are you able to raise such genuinely good men of great character? Because from what I've known and from what I've gotten to see from these three guys, for Daniel, Jared, and Luke, they're humble, no egos. They kind of go with the flow type of guys, which is a rarity nowadays too, considering the accomplishments that they have achieved. So Paul, I'll let you kind of speak on that a little bit.
Well, as far as like the abundance of talent and stuff like that, obviously we're blessed, but I always like to say they got their athletic ability from their mom, and that's where they got their good genes from. But in reality, they had their two grandparents were outstanding baseball players. My dad played in the Yankees organization, played up through AA, and their other grandfather, O'Brien, played in the not played, but was kind of drafted out of college. He played 4 years in college, was the captain of the team, and then the Cubs wanted to sign him, but he had started his family by then and did not feel comfortable with a young 1-year-old playing in the Cubs organization. So, and they also have an uncle who played in the Yankees organization up through A-ball, and they have a cousin, John Andreoli, who plays currently in the Red Sox organization. There's your Red Sox hat for you. And so they're surrounded with a lot of baseball people, and they've had great coaches. So it's not just a matter of talent. They've had great coaches. Greg Simmons, obviously, through high school. Mike Schilt they had in summer ball. Luke didn't, but Jared and Daniel did. And then their grandfather, Fran O'Brien, is a Hall of Fame baseball coach in the collegiate AABC. And he coached in college for over 40 years. So, and as far as raising good men, I'd say, again, I just say we're blessed. There's not always a guarantee that, but we did always teach, Kathy and I always taught the boys to be humble, and obviously thank God for their gifts and talents and their health. Health's always important. Luke can attest to that. And really, as far as an approach, it's not about you, it's about the team and, helping your team win and compete. And if you kept that perspective, and really in life, it's the golden rule, treat others as you'd like to be treated yourself. And those combinations have worked out pretty well for them and for Jared also. So that's kind of the philosophy we started with. So, and we still do it.
Got it. Well, if it's not broke, no need to fix it. You've done you and Kathy have both done a phenomenal job, and I'm excited to see what the future holds, obviously, for all of them, not just on the baseball field, but just as young men as they continue to grow and help out their communities. So that's fantastic. So my first sports question will go more towards, for you, Daniel. Certainly sports in general can mirror life in just so many different ways. But let's talk about the ups and downs that numbers of athletes have to put up with that inevitably will come at you no matter what the sport is. How do you handle the good days and the bad days, especially early on in your career? And do you from perspective, handle it any differently today?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different now than it was when I was young. I think at times I handled it pretty well, and at times I handled it really poorly. And you learn from those times. You learn a lot. And for me, I think it's just, I think how you handle failure determines how much success you're going to have in anything in life. Whether you're starting a business, or you're trying to play baseball, or you're being a parent, whatever it is, like how you handle early failures and how you come back from those is ultimately going to determine where you end up, I think. So, like I said, I handle them well at times, not so well at others. I do think just over time, life experience changes you, and your perspective changes. I think for me, I retired from baseball 3 years ago as a player. Took 2 years away from playing the game, and now I'm back playing again, which is a really unusual path. But I feel like it's really changed the way I think about the game, and kind of a lot more forgiving of myself, and really truly appreciate every day I have, on a field, and every inning I get to pitch in the game. Like, you just appreciate it more and more. I'm getting kind of old for the playing thing, so who knows how long it lasts. But I think the more you're appreciative of every opportunity you get, there's nothing wrong with being frustrated when things don't go well. But I think if you're letting it define you, if you're constantly in a reactive state to that failure, you're not going to be in a good place. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Got it. Great points there. Obviously, the game itself doesn't define who you are as a person. You come up with that. So certainly how you deal with failure is going to make a big difference or a big impact for you. But I think the biggest point that I think everyone at home will be able to look at and say, yeah, this is me too, is right now we're all stuck at home. There's no spring sports. So having the ability to appreciate every single time you get out there for a practice, or every single time you get out there for a game. I know we've got a number of seniors that right now are wishing desperately that they were outside getting some baseball work in. So it's hard to do it in the moment. You feel like it's going to last forever, but certainly we want to appreciate every minute that you get with it, because nothing's promised. So good answer. Good. I like it. Luke, this one's more for you. Preparation for any sport can be grueling, to say the least. Going through the grind, as a lot of people call it, but even more so as you look at how you stay at a peak level from a performance perspective. What's your routine to try to get you at a peak level? And what I mean by that is, talk a little bit about what you have to do, whether it's from an exercise, nutrition, diet, proper rest, etc., to ensure that you're ready to go and perform at a peak level.
Yeah, I think fans, see us on TV and just assume that, we got this great easy life all the time. We just go out there and pitch every third or fourth day, and it's as easy as that. But what they don't see is, all the sacrifice and work put in behind the scenes. So, like, this morning, we haven't played in months, and we're not going to probably play for a couple months, but it was a rainy morning, so I went into an indoor facility and probably did about 45 minutes of hip exercises prior to doing anything, and then warmed up, and then lifted for about probably close to an hour, and then went out and did some shoulder exercises, and then threw, and then stretched. It probably took about 3.5 hours, and then came home, grabbed some lunch, and now I'm on the call. And then once we're done here, I'm going to FaceTime with one of our trainers to just go over some breathing exercises and hip mobility exercises that we do about once a week. And that's just pretty much a normal Monday. Will probably take about 5 hours of my time dedicated to baseball. And kind of doing that, 5-6 days a week for the last, 10 to 15 years, even into my high school years. You just kind of get into the mindset where everything you do, you want to know how it's going to affect your baseball performance, whether it's how you're sleeping, how you're eating, who you're surrounding yourself with, the books you're reading, the shows you're watching. You just kind of stay in a mindset of how can I improve myself? How can I get healthier? How can I get better? How can I perform better? And a lot of little tiny steps add up. And I think you look back and you can even surprise yourself with how far you've come.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it all adds up, and it's competitive out there. I know you guys know that just from the history of it. So every little bit helps, obviously. So that's fantastic. Paul, a little bit more for you now. Obviously, as the dad, kind of watching all of your kids kind of grow into young men and what they can contribute to the community and what they've done with their sports, et cetera, whether it was through college or currently through pro. It's got to be very, very prideful in watching what your kids are able to achieve in terms of things that they're truly passionate about. Not everybody gets that opportunity. Talk a little bit about the support system that they've been able to get from you and Kathy, as well as from each other.
Yeah, just to validate what you said there, and Luke and I were talking just the other day, about pride. And, I had played 5 years of minor league baseball and never got to the big leagues. And, two of the best days of my life were when Daniel called us to tell us he was getting called up, and when Luke called us to tell us he made the team. So a lot of pride knowing that they accomplished something that I couldn't accomplish in life. So made me real proud of them, and Kathy too. But probably me more so because I had played. So, but yeah, it's a real, like we were talking about blessings and stuff like that. It's a real blessing to know that my three boys have the same passion that I have, which was baseball growing up. And just, again, I won't say coincidence, but it worked out that they're able to make a living at it and create a life around baseball too. So, but again, more as a person and how the support system, how, when we raised them, one of the things that we tried to emphasize all the time was that, the amount that we love them or how we love them or to what degree is not determined by how well they do on the field or how well they do in a classroom. There is one thing they could always control was their approach and their attitude towards their game or their teammates or winning or losing or their coaches, respect for their coaches, respect for the game, respect for their teachers and stuff like that. And as long as their attitude and approach was positive, and best effort and strive for excellence, we were always very, very, pleased with them. But as far as how they performed on the field, that was, secondary and third. I mean, it didn't matter. Because usually if they were doing the attitude and approach right, the results on the field showed up well. So again, is that what you were kind of looking for as far as support? That's kind of how we supported them as parents.
Yeah, no doubt. I think those are critical moments because I think, especially at the younger ages, I mean, kids are pleasers by nature. They want their mom and dad to be happy because they got that little league medal or what have you. But sometimes as a parent, you can not define them, but almost live vicariously through them, which is dangerous, right? You want them to grow and be who they're going to be. And if they happen to do something that they're passionate about, fantastic, let's support it. Whether it's baseball, esports, football, whatever it is. But letting them know that, hey, who you are is ultimately who we love, not what you do. So that's important. So that's great. That's great.
I'll expand on that real quick. Just again, something we learned. Dr. Dobson, a great psychologist and child psychologist, always said, don't bring up the performance in the game on the ride home, unless they bring it up. And in fact, don't even bring it up with them until they bring it up with you. So I remember, I think Luke in Little League or someone said something to Kathy, well, I don't want to drive home with Dad because he's going to bring up the game. But so it took that and reading the book, the childhood psychology book on don't bring up, especially a weaker performance or why did you do something in a game? Or, I can't believe you struck out with bases loaded when, you're a better hitter than that or whatever. You just don't bring that up until they bring it up because they will bring it up later, but it might be that night or the next morning.
Yep.
So
I can tell you from experience, very hard to do that, but very, very much agree.
You just got to stay quiet or put the radio on.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Daniel, back to you for a second. You talked about being able to appreciate the game earlier. And I think once someone has a sense of being able to understand, who they are and how they appreciate the game, it certainly helps make them an even better teammate. They might have been a great teammate already, but sometimes that can help evolve them into an even better teammate. But for you, let me ask you, describe, in your opinion, what makes a great teammate to you? Is it their talent level? Is it something else? Maybe a combination of the two? In your opinion, great teammate, what does that look like?
Yeah, for me, thinking back, good teammates I had, and I always strive to be a good teammate. I hope people would say that about me. But for me, what I would look for in a guy is someone who kind of brings the same energy, the same presence every day to the ballpark or whatever, the field, wherever you're playing. I think it's somebody who, like, you're around them and you just kind of want to, like, go get better. You want to go do that extra thing because you see them, and it's not in a way like they're doing it to show everybody. They're just like, oh, that's that guy that he makes me want to go be better. And I think that would be a big part of it for me. And then also, I think just someone who's constantly present every day, having conversations with guys, getting to know his teammates, taking the time to really get to know who they are off the field. I think all those things definitely go into it for me.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It makes a difference in terms of the wins and losses when you've got a good group of guys that can really mesh well together and get out in the field and play. Sometimes that's better than having all the talent, even though having all the talent certainly does help. Luke, for you, kind of switching gears from teammates to coaches, let's talk about influential coaches you've had over the years. And I'm sure you've had a number of them that have touched you in your career and in your life. And each coach can be different in terms of their style and what they expect from you, et cetera. But who would be some of the coaches that you felt were some of the most influential in your career path?
My Little League coach, sitting in the bottom left corner of my screen here. I was fortunate enough to have really good coaches all through my growing up Little League time, all through through high school. And I think that was somewhat rare, because as I've gotten older, I've realized that it's not always the case to have coaches who genuinely want what's best for you and want to grow you as a person and a man. And looking back, I had that at a younger age, and it was huge for me, because it was just kind of about being tough, about being competitive, about believing in myself, being confident. Like, I remember Greg Simmons at Charlotte Christian. It was never really about the mechanics or even the X's and O's of baseball. It was more about my mindset out there. Was I confident? Was my, body language good? Was I expecting to dominate? And at the time then, you look back, like, did Greg Simmons make me mechanically a better pitcher or something like that I think so many 15, 16, 17-year-olds are dying for? It wasn't that, but it was stuff that took me way further. It was about being out there and, nobody's getting a hit today because I'm on the mound kind of mindset. That kind of kept building. And I think I carried that even to today. So back to your question, just having, whether it was my dad, high school coaches, coaches that believed in you and wanted what's best for you and held you accountable to when they've seen you at your best to when you're not at your best. I think those, values carry more than, maybe staying close or staying on top of the ball or whatever your issues are that way. That stuff kind of comes and goes, and but really being confident, being aggressive, those things have carried me much further.
Yeah, no doubt. And not just in baseball or in sports, but certainly I'm sure in life too. It seems like there's a very common element to what Daniel said and to what Luke said in respect to those that really had a genuine interest in you and try to push you to be even better player in person, ultimately are those that are going to, be most influential, whether it be as a teammate or as a coach. So that's certainly something we can look forward to, hopefully, for people that are watching this. Last question for each of you. Love baseball myself. We're a very passionate family. I've got 2 children that also play, so our dinner conversations always typically surround some type of sport. If you found out that there would be no more baseball, I hope that's not a reality this year, but in general, no more baseball, what would you look back on as one of your fondest memories in baseball? So, Paul, I'm going to start with you. You got a longer list to choose from.
Yeah, just because I've lived 60 years. I give you, again, from a broader standpoint, as a player, the interesting thing is there isn't one fond memory as a player. In all the years playing high school, college, and pros, I could name 5 things that really stand out from a baseball perspective as far as a memory goes. 5 things, and we're not going to go into those. But I can tell you hundreds of stories and relationships with teammates and coaches, hundreds that are fond memories. And again, so I can't give you any one, but
Awesome.
Looking back at it, that's what I remember. And then as a parent, I would say the fondest memories, and with each of our boys, I can name very, very, very fond memories from Little League, from high school, from summer ball, from college, watching Daniel pitch in the College World Series, seeing Luke just dominate in college. It's going up and seeing Jared pitch at Richmond, tremendous ideas, but all the way to their big league stuff. But there's no one baseball fond memory that's better than any. They're great at every level.
Understood.
Great at every level.
Understood.
Luke's the only one that won a Little League championship, though. And I coached all 3 of them in Little League.
We had to get that in.
Right.
Daniel, how about for you?
Best memory. I mean, I think for me, I usually tell people that the year that I went to the College World Series with UNC, 2006, a while back. To me, that whole experience, our team was so close knit, and to have a run of success. We didn't quite win the whole thing. We finished second, but it was with a group of guys that I still remain really close with to this day. Almost 15 years later. So that says a lot right there. I mean, it was just a close knit group of guys. We kind of went against the odds, and we did have some really good pitching on that team, but I don't think we were the most talented team probably in the country, but we made an awesome run, and getting to go play on that stage at 20 or 21 years old, it was unbelievable, and probably even more fun than playing in the big leagues, which sounds crazy, but you're going through that experience at the College World Series with your group of your best friends at that time in life. And in the big leagues, you have your buddies, you have your guys you're close to, but there's so much more going on. The age span, it's 15 years, across the whole team. Guys are making all different kinds of money. So it's just different. It's fun in its own way, but to me, nothing beats going to do something on that stage with a group of your best friends.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's very hard to beat the college experience, especially when you're able to get it to that level, to get to the final, whether it's Final Four, finals in baseball, football championship, et cetera. Once you get to there, especially at that age, like you said, with the people that you are growing up with, literally, that's pretty darn special. So, Luke, last but not least, how about for you?
Yeah, I'd probably reiterate what both of them have said. Kind of that when you do look back on memories, whichever level it was at, you don't really remember even the best teams, when the best players, stats. You remember, the relationships, how people treated you, the fun you had. That's kind of what sticks out to me. And like Daniel said, I think a lot of people think that the further you go up, the more fun and better it is. And that's not always the case. I got so many great memories from the minor leagues, living and, been all over the country, bus rides, plane flights, different hotels, restaurants, just going out to eat, pranks with each other. There's so many memories, with baseball that are outside of baseball. Just developing those relationships with teammates, coaches, trainers, strength coach. And that's what I think I'll carry with me the most, way more than an ERA or, a stat line or whatever that may be.
Yep. Understood. Great stuff. Great insight. And that is actually going to wrap us up for the time that we have on today's SPINcast. But before we go, again, I'd like to give a sincere thank you to Paul, Daniel, Luke. We hope that during this trying times, you guys first and foremost stay healthy. But hopefully we'll be able to get to see really all 3 of you back out on the field in some capacity here sooner than later. We wish you all the best, all the most success possible. And again, we sincerely appreciate the time that you've been able to put aside to give us a little bit of information and insight into who you are and what you do. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.